It was just a normal day at school, and then these words were hit at me. You are a retard because your sister is a retard. Now, I knew the guy that said it to me meant it in a very teasing way, but it really hit me more personally. Growing up with a disabled sister or a person with a mental disorder can really teach you a lot about life. And as I grew up, I've witnessed countless times people using words or any derogatory term, like the R word, perhaps. Today, we're going to be talking more about my sister and growing up and my experiences with bullying in middle school. And then we're going to reflect on how those had a large impact on my life. But first, let's talk about my sister. This is my sister. She was born with a developmental genetic disorder called Cornelia de Long syndrome, or known as CDLS. People with CDLS are typically a lot different than the typical person. They're usually very short. She stands about 5 feet tall, and she has very small hands and feet. She has very thin, downturned lips and a unibrow and long eyelashes. Bailey can only communicate with very few words. She can say hi, bye, mom, dad, eat, or whatever. But what's also amazing is her ability to communicate with sign language. She can say words like wait, or bye, or eat, or no, yes. It's just enough. Being limited to only a few words can be challenging at times, but it's definitely amazing to be able to see and understand how she's feeling most of the time. Growing up with Bailey, it's been a challenge, and as I grew up, the biggest challenge was having to watch her all the time. My parents usually worked all the time, so I don't have to stay home and watch her. And one of my most memorable moments with her is just staying home with her and watching her. And one particular moment was on a Sunday morning. My parents were gone, and usually she would sleep until, I don't know, noon, and then my parents would come back home and I wouldn't really have to do anything. But on this particular Sunday morning, she decided to wake up really early and go for a run around the neighborhood. And I didn't realize that. I was busy playing video games. And I go up to check on her, and I discovered that she was gone and the front door was wide open. As I ran out the door, I realized that she was already halfway up the block. And as I chased her down, I ran up to her and I grabbed her, and she was very determined to just sit down like a rock. She would just sit down on the ground, and I would try to pick her up and move her, and she would definitely not move. She was determined to stay there. And after countless times, I just eventually just gave up, and we're sitting on a sidewalk there, and I sat there for a good 30 minutes. And that really taught me a lot about patience, because having a sister with a disability really taught me to be patient with other people and knowing that it takes time for people to get accumulated to things. So we're just sitting there on a sidewalk, very awkward-like. And fortunately enough, she finally got up, and then I took her back home. Now that you know a little bit more about my sister, I'm going to talk about my experience with bullying. In middle school, I went to the same school as my sister, and there was one kid that knew about my sister, and he decided to tease me about it. He would usually come up to me, and he would call me a retard, and he would say the R word. And one particular moment was when we got into an argument over Facebook, and he would say, "You are a retard because your sister is a retard." And that really angered me, and one day I came up to him, very just angry. I marched up to him, and I said, "You know, it's really messed up to make fun of someone for something they have no control over. And instead of pointing out the flaws in other people, you should really reevaluate yourself." And surprisingly enough, he apologized right there, and that was the end of that. Now that you know about my sister and my experiences with bullying, I'm going to reflect on how they had an impact on my life. Bailey really taught me a lot of valuable life lessons. One of them was to love unconditionally, and another one was being patient. More importantly, do not judge others, and you cannot change others for who they are. It's more important to understand how people are different to you, and you can't do anything about it. Now, Sugar, on the other hand, did teach me a lot about bullying and how it's a very real thing and should not be taken lightly. Bullying, especially with using derogatory terms, is a really big problem today, and all of you should understand and figure out ways to stop it. Today, we talked about my sister, my experiences with bullying, and how it had a very large impact on my life. And I encourage all of you to stop using those derogatory terms and find a way to end it. Stopping these derogatory terms is the first step to ending bullying overall.